Now that the orcs all have their campaign reward, they've stopped playing. They went back to their other races. See, the thing about calling a crusade for one faction is that you've got 4 character slots. Most people have 1 of each character. So since they called the crusade for orcs, everyone just went and played their orc character instead of their elder, chaos, or space marine. That's why you could hardly have any matches apart from against orcs. But now that they've got their RP and their campaign reward, they're back playing whatever races they were playing beforehand. That's why single faction campaigns by themselves is absolutely fucking retarded.
Yeah, but the reason they did, there was actually a reason to doing that because they were looking for data on orcs that they couldn't really get a decent sample size with the number of orc players they had.
What about the 3 other campaigns they have stacked up?
The big problem is, though, when you run a crusade or run a campaign that's faction specific, you overload that faction instantly because everybody so it needs to be a campaign that everybody, everybody, that all factions can participate in. If not, if you run a Space Marine campaign,
to overload the orcs.
And if they wanted to overload the orcs, they shouldn't have done it while they had glaring mechanical deficiencies like the death cannon. Because that was the
whole point of them overloading it, was to see what was actually broken with the orcs and get the solid data points that they needed. For example, I mean, it's more than, well, the death cannon's broken, but how exactly is it broken? What exactly is it doing? And it's hard to tell when you have a very small sample size. So when they massively inflated their sample size, there was that aspect. And the other side of it that they discussed on the Twitch was they were trying to attract more players to the orc side. Now, the other factions are getting campaigns, but none of them apparently are going to be quite as long as the orc one, just to make things even out for everybody else. But the main reason they went with orcs first was literally to see where things were standing with the orc weaponry and to have a good sample size.
But the thing is, still fucking bullshit.
When you talk about
why the hell should we have to sit there and be their sample for a glaring bug or stat difference that was their problem to begin with? There's no reason we should have to fucking take the brunt of that.
Okay.
No, I agree. Like, you got to test bugs like that for like the Dark Reaper cannon, because that's not something you can implement in an in-house build and discover right away. It got discovered in a live environment like weeks later after they changed the Dark Reaper build. They don't have that excuse with the fucking Death Cannon. Don't tell me that they didn't test that shit in-house and say, oh, hey, it seems to be doing the appropriate amount of damage. Let's roll it the fuck out. And then when you put it in a live environment where you have over 20,000 orcs running around, I guess it's actually doing 1,600 on splash. That is a huge oversight by the developers.
Yeah, the damage, it was an oversight, but the reason it wasn't an issue before was because it used to be you had to manually reload between every shot, and if you were braced, you had to unbrace, reload, brace again, and fire. And then, not too long ago, they put in a patch where it would automatically, like, it had the same reload mechanic as everything else, and you could reload while braced. And that's when the Death Cannon went from being barely ever used to suddenly everybody spamming it, because it went from being a potentially questionable weapon to one that was actually, like, basically as functional as the old plasma cannon.
I mean, if the orc used it, he was a walking fucking predator that could one-shot. Because the Luda boys already have enough fucking health. It takes a few shots to drop them. And they could actually sit there and take base bolter fire and still have time to charge and shoot that fucking Death Cannon. Like I said, with the Dark Reaper bug, yeah, that took a while to figure out. But I mean, it should, even with the bracing thing, you know, did you fire off a couple shots in-house at each other before you rolled it live, or did you just stamp your seal of approval on it and throw it in a live environment? That irks me.
Well, they should have rewarded both sides equally, regardless of who won, because testing, and they should have rewarded everyone for that.
I mean,
to lessen
5,000 RTC at us and call it a day. Like, sorry, we fucked up.
other problem with it, though, too, is keep in mind that they were basically forced out of alpha early. So there's a lot of cases where there would have been testing like this done well before the game went into release, and there wasn't. So now they're having to do it in the live environment because it's the only way that they get the actual numbers that they need. Now, yes, there's one or two ways that they can look at something and see something's massively off, but in other cases, again, like with the def cannon, until they actually changed the reload mechanic for the def cannon, it was almost never used, so you wouldn't get those data points. Because, I mean, one thing they look at is not so much just how much damage a weapon does, but what the average time to kill is. And when you have a huge delay in your reload, and you get maybe like one shot off before somebody kills you, you're hardly ever going to use that weapon, right? But then suddenly, with the reload mechanic working pretty much exactly like the plasma cannon, with lowering your delay considerably, like it cut it at least in half, then that makes a huge difference. Top of it, then they're like, oh wait, this really does still have a huge blast radius and huge amounts of damage.
I agree, but I also agree with Fellhammer that both sides should be compensated for being run as a test. But all the same, on top of all that, I think that considering what was involved for the death cannon, you didn't need a week worth of what we had to go through to get the results, to get the data they needed. You didn't need a week of that shit.
No, they did agree on the Twitch that the duration was too long, but part of the duration length also had to do with the long weekend. So there wasn't there wasn't really basically anybody to switch things back because of the long weekend.
Yeah, but the thing is, they shot themselves in the foot by releasing during a long weekend. But actual final retention numbers were shit for a 2-week period. They really were.
Yeah, that's a bad call to release your free-to-play as well as running that test at the same time. That's just a stupid call for your game's stability and your game's reputation.
I mean, he was bragging about it, like, what was it, like a 12% retention rate? I'm like, in a 2-week period, that's actually fucking horrible, a 12% retention rate.
But he was also comparing that to other MMOs and their retention rates, which, like, retention rates in general for any game that's gone free to play. Well, not just an MMO. I mean, you can compare it to like World of Tanks or like any other. I mean, because this is still MMO. It's just not an MMORPG.
This is Call of Duty with a 40k skin.
Yeah, pretty much.
Just about.
It's maybe like a mix between.
You speak heresy.
Mix between Call of Duty and Battlefield, because you got the vehicles and shit.
I agree.
Yeah, mix gray with gray.
Edwin always described this as Battlefield 40k.
Excuse me, mix gray with brown.
Guys. It's Gears of War with vehicles.
Gears of War.
Pretty much.
If you could take like the cover system and some of these types of games, like the capture points and then Fortress, and add the game types from Space Marine and their weapons into this, it'd be the perfect 40k game.
Except the Meltagun.
Yeah.
Meltagun's fun.
Which one do you prefer, this one or the old one from Space Marine, the shotgun?
I
prefer this one.
I prefer this one.
I almost prefer this one just because the Melta in that one was basically a shotgun.
Yeah, I didn't like the melt in that one. I'm not sure what it was about. I can never put my finger on it, but I never liked it.
Don't get me wrong, I loved it, but I mean, it wasn't a Melta, it was a shotgun.
I could get kills with it fine, but normally that's the thing. In other games, I love using shotguns, but the Melta it didn't have the satisfaction of a shotgun, and it didn't feel like a Melta should feel. So I kind of just stayed away from it.
Now,
I liked it.
I prefer the plasma cannon in Space Marine. It was a lob, not a direct fire. I preferred that better than this because that reflected tabletop better.
Well, I like the sound of the heavy bolter.
They originally had the plasma cannon as a lob, but I'm not sure why they changed it.
You can still mortar shot with it.
Yeah, it does have drop off, but it's not quite like a artillery lob like it was in Space Marine.
Oh yeah, you can press. Is it X?
I wish they
press?
added the
And you
bolter
can-
sounds from Space Marine into this game.
Oh,
That would
Is it
have
X
been
you can press and make it a mortar?
Yeah.
I don't know. I haven't played plasma cans so long,
Not
Axis
the bolter
change firing
sounds.
modes.
Oh.
but it should be that just
Shut
should
up.
be. It shouldn't be a choice. It just should be that lob mechanic. Because I thought that was one of the better weapons in Space Marine. It seemed balanced, you know, unless you were on the receiving end, of course.
Giggity.
I like
So, which one do you like better, the last cannon in this one or the last cannon in Space Marine?
this one.
Last Cannon Space Marine.
You're fucking nuts.
Yeah, I mean it was good, but before they added that, I guess the drift in this is a bug. Somebody was saying, so they're looking to fix that. But yeah, before you had that drift thing when you were scoped in. I mean, this one was.
All right, it's all us guys and some other rando versus orcs, so we gotta look good.
Let's go
Yeah.
Charlie. Right now,
They're outnumbered.
I don't want to look good.
Yeah, this is a bit.
Oh,
of a shame.
too bad, motherfucker.
There's
I
not a
picked
lot
my
of them.
Ultramarine.
I wanna go to
You're an
sleep.
angel of Sanguinius. You have to look good.
Okay.
Hey Zeros, guess what I got? Come to Buttercup.
Ignore that order.
Oh.
Charlie. Ignore Charlie.
You can do it. There you go.